Okay, Oscar fans, see, win your Oscar prediction pool, you got to get all those little categories and the craft stuff right. How do you know? Well, these people know. Meet the gang of four of ultimate Oscarologists. Ann Thompson of Indiewire, Pete Hammond of Deadline Hollywood, Tim Gray of Variety, and I'm Tom O'Neill of Gold Derby. I want to start with foreign film, Ann. Early on this year, you told me Tony Erdmann was among your favorite films of the year. And right now, it is the far out frontrunner among all the various groups making predictions at Gold Derby. But there are other factors at play.
Critics like Tony Erdmann, but it isn't really that popular with the Academy voters. And I was going to give A Man Called Ove, which is very popular, the #1 slot until Donald Trump's Muslim ban.
Yes.
At which point, Asghar Farhadi's The Salesman, the Iranian winner of A Separation a few years ago, who is not going to come to the Oscars because he's not even going to try to get an invitation to get across the border. He's going to stay home in solidarity with his Muslim buddies, and he should, and the movie will win. The Academy voters, I've heard a number of them already say that we're going to vote for that.
Even if they're not going to watch
because of
it.
this. To send a message.
They're not going to watch it.
We've seen the stages of these award shows become very, very political, with Meryl Streep at the Golden Globes and everybody at SAG. So if this outside scary political time we live in is played out at the Oscars, on the awards front, we're going to see it on the stage in many places, Tim, but this is the category where it may have the strongest impact on the awards, right?
I mean, I think this is the only category that's like directly affected by what's been happening in the news recently, right? But
maybe Ali got a bigger push.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, and in the shorts, White Helmets, there's
That's another
Syrians
one.
are talking about not coming,
well,
and
then-
you know.
There's even a
I
supporting
don't know what I'm
actress in A
talking
Man
about,
Called
so don't listen to
Uva,
anybody predict
who's
that.
not coming.
There's a supporting
Now,
actress.
She may not have been coming in.
Deadline, we just did
by the
an
way.
interview with her today, and she's going, I don't want to spend 10 hours in an airport wondering if I can get out or not. She's got a Swedish passport. She lives in Sweden, but she's born in Iran, and she has an Iranian passport too. And so the big question is whether she can come or not. Today they're saying she can, but we'll see. But it's interesting, Man Called Ove, since we're talking about that movie too, really seems to me of the 5 nominees to be the most, in terms of politics and things, to be the most closest to what's going on now. It's about love thy neighbor and an Iranian that moves next door to this man in Sweden and finding a way to all get along and live together in this complex. And I think that movie has a strong message. The Salesman, which a lot of people are saying they're going to vote for just as a political statement, really does not. You know, just because he's from Iran and he says he's not coming to the Oscars, it does not mean that movie is worthy of it in those terms.
It won 2 prizes at Cannes.
It did. I didn't think it was that great.
A Separation as well, and it's a good movie. It's
Separation
a solid
was a
movie.
much better movie for him, though. And you agree with me, this movie was not going to win before this happened.
No.
Yeah. So we're looking at a political situation.
Let's look at.
No, I was just curious because we don't know because we never actually see the results. But sometimes I think Oscar voters, I kind of expect them to make a statement, and they actually just vote for whatever they liked. And then it's like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to make a statement.
This year I'm picking up on some pretty fierce anger.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of anger in the air. I mean,
Yeah.
not just in the Academy.
A
but-
community of people who are angry,
Yeah.
and they tend to be liberals, our
Yeah.
group here.
Be interesting to
this
see how that
group.
affects all the other races, though, too. I mean, if that's the case, and they do decide, as you just said, Tim, to make a statement and feel like they have to make a statement somewhere
Well, that
else.
could affect Best Picture.
Yeah, it
I've
could.
often thought that Moonlight had a very good chance of taking over and being with 8 nominations, with some support through the categories, including editing,
Yeah, and
which Manchester
cinematography.
didn't have. I thought maybe if they picked one, it would be Moonlight. But the argument against that is that there's Fences, Moonlight, and Hidden Figures all picking up a piece of that vote, if that's what's going on.
Yeah, I think it could help. Again, I would just talk Hidden Figures. This is where it could help Hidden Figures. If they decide to, we love La La Land, boom, 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 and then, but Best Picture, what do we want? What do we want people to think of? And this was a movie that could fit that bill.
Well, I mean, I know we're not talking about the Best Picture category here, but Hidden Figures to me is kind of irresistible because it's a message about feminism, about racism, about education, about getting a good education.
And it's aspirational.
And it is
hopeful.
aspirational.
And
but
it's a huge box office hit.
Yeah, it's very
All
entertaining.
of those boxes are checked here.
You know, it's
No
not. It's not
Best
a good.
Director nomination.
No,
That's
no,
true.
exactly. Yeah,
And no DGA nomination.
Yeah.
And Tom, you know that stat. When was the last time a movie won without both of those?
Argo didn't
yeah,
have.
No, Argo won the Directors Guild
But it
Award.
didn't have.
Yeah,
Right.
but
Yeah.
I'm talking about a movie that didn't have a DGA nomination and an Oscar nomination for Best Director.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
It's pretty rare.
I think
Yeah.
it's very rare.
Yeah.
Oh yes, oh yes. I thought you had the answer for it. Someone out there will have the answer. Let's look at some of these
Yeah, all right.
crafts
We're just
categories.
posing
I think
questions.
one of the real fascinating races is sound editing. Okay, and here's why it's interesting.
Oh,
Here's
really?
why
Really?
It's right.
ABC will love you.
Because we know that La La Land will win sound mixing, right? Because the musicals always win there. Whiplash was the last music themed film to win there. So if you accept that premise, and the overwhelming people who make predictions of Gold Derby do, then you look over at the sound editing and say, well, does it win there? Rarely, I can't think of a musical that has won there. Rarely do they even get nominated. And it competes against Hacksaw, which is actually the #1 contender here according to our odds. But we have seen these sound awards matched up in recent years. Last year, Mad Max won both. Hugo won both. Gravity won both. So the question I think the pundits have this year is, well, do we say, all right, then La La wins both because they're going to make that magic pairing in their mind? Or is the bias against musicals in the editing category a real thing and therefore Hacksaw wins? And then if you go with that route, Hacksaw's the loudest movie, right? We know that the loudest movie usually wins the sound award.
Well, yeah, because they don't know what they're voting for in sound categories. They don't, and they'll be the first to tell you, except the sound people. And maybe they should go back and just have these branches vote for the winners here, because they understand it. So that's why you've had these dual winners here. Are there war films? War films do really well in the sound, like American Sniper won. I think they're just going to check off both.
I think it's Hacksaw. I already, not even knowing that you're
You said that
Gold
before,
Derbies,
yes.
I think it's Hacksaw.
For
Could well
both?
be. War films,
No,
war
just-
films and
just-
musicals do very well in
editing.
sound.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think you could very well be right with Hacksaw, and
They
may
like
look
it a
at that.
lot,
They like it a lot, and
obviously,
this is a place to
give it something.
something.
But also, it was last year I did a column kind of explaining the difference between sound editing and mixing because I wasn't sure, and it was so I talked to a lot of Academy voters, and I said, "Can you explain?" And they all said, "Oh, I don't even vote in those categories because I don't know the difference." But I don't know if they were telling me the truth. Because they said I don't feel like I'm qualified because they didn't understand the difference between editing and mixing. And I thought, well, you see, that's why I'd love to see the results because it's like how many
the vote
people
counts,
did
yes.
vote. How many people?
would
Everybody
be
votes for
interesting.
Best Picture.
Yeah.
I think.
That's the
Yeah.
book I've always wanted to write, Academy Award Vote Totals by Pete Hammond. Unfortunately,
No one will
it'll
ever
never
write.
happen.
But Pete, you are an expert on the costume award, and it's one of the most fascinating categories this year because La La is way out front according to the experts at Gold Derby, but do we really believe that? As you know, Pete, and have said many times, including earlier today, that the contemporary costumes rarely win. The last contemporary costume film to win was Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Before that, you have to go back to Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf in the 1960s.
In black and
This
white.
is very
Black and white.
retro, though. This movie isn't
Yeah.
really contemporary.
Yeah.
Those costumes are all inspired
That's an
by
interesting way to
older
look at it, okay.
costumes, and I think that it will win costumes.
Yeah, I think it deserves to. I thought it's a
Well,
beautiful
it's hard
colors.
to come up with one to take it away from.
I
you.
know, the
Yes,
category.
What do you mean it's
Jackie's-
hard?
the
Jackie
cate-
Onassis
It's-
fashion icon.
No, that's
They
just
imitate
copying. That's
the
looking at what
costumes that
Jackie
already
wore.
exist.
We already have seen those
Agreed.
costumes. We saw the pink suit. We know exactly what it
I was
looks like.
surprised it got nominated.
Yeah,
for
this
that
costume
Oh,
reason.
design.
come on, you're surprised it
No,
got
no,
nominated.
no,
It
no.
certainly got nominated for the guilds and so forth. Tim, make some sense out of this for us.
I've been trying since we started. No, but I do think in terms of costumes, I think with all of it, it's like what did you notice? Because again, there's movies like Duchess. It's usually the period movie with the gowns.
Right.
Yes,
that
yes,
gets
yes.
to the
Always,
but you
always,
do
always.
notice the costumes in La La Land, and they're very striking, and they're kind of retro and yet original.
Yeah.
So, and I think people kind of notice that
appreciate
work
that, I
because
think.
again, I mean, there's a lot of contemporary movie. I mean, Hell or High Water. It's like a lot of people kind of think, oh, they brought their own clothes. And
Right.
the actor just wore their own clothes. But this, it's like, this was a designed movie. So
Yeah.
I think La La Land's
We
gonna
don't
do
have
well.
like a Marie Antoinette this
Yeah.
year. We don't
Right,
have
right, right.
Elizabeth, with her coat
Yeah.
hanger dresses that go on for miles and things. We don't have those this year.
Florence Foster Jenkins would be the one, and
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
don't feel it. I
Right.
don't feel
Yeah,
it.
it's good. I did have one Academy member in the producers branch say, and he likes La La Land, but he goes like, seriously, La La Land for costumes? He said, my vote goes to either Jackie, interestingly, or Florence Foster Jenkins.
Or what do
Those
you
would
mean
be the
coat hanger
traditional ones.
dresses?
Well, it looks like you just took, the drapes there and put them on your shoulders and walking around. Those were
That
big.
kind of Versailles.
Big,
yeah.
big costumes you're walking around. I always remember the Carol Burnett sketch
exactly.
on Gone
That-
with the Wind where she did that.
That's what I
I
was-
saw it in the window and I had to have
Yeah,
it.
it's not coat hanger, it's a drape thing. Yeah, but anyway, yeah.
So cinematography, La La Land is out front according to the experts at Gold Derby. Arrival is in second place. Why is La La going to win cinematography?
Because they're going to check off everything.
I have to say that when you talk to people, or would talk to directors, and you talk to people in town, they're really impressed with what Chazelle did as a filmmaker with this. How he got the shots,
They
how
can't
he
believe
pulled
it.
them off.
Yeah.
I was talking to one guy who's going to go back and look at it again to figure out how he did the opening number. Like he couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
That's impressed.
That is
impressive. So I think that cinematography is easily going to go. If Bradford Young, the first African American to be nominated, were to be nominated for Arrival, that would be very cool.
Yeah,
but
were
it's
to win, you
unlikely.
mean, for
yeah,
Arrival.
to win. Yeah.
I don't think they look on the ballot. Do they even put the name of the cinematographer? I think they just put the name of the movie.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So
So it's
Yeah, 'cause
unlikely.
they don't put the names below after screen.
I don't think they're
I think
looking at.
Arrival is stunning, but
Yeah, I don't think
it's
they're looking at
probably
first
La La
African
Land.
American nominated there.
So film editing. When you win Best Picture, you normally win film editing. So that means, La La Land should have this in the bag. But we know that the film editing award often goes to the one with the most noticeably juggling camera, right? And that might be Hacksaw Ridge this year. Is that possible? Can Hacksaw take down La La Land for Best
Well,
editing?
oddly enough, you're talking about that kind of editing. Tom Cross won the editing award for Whiplash, and he has done La La Land. He won the ACE Award the other night, and Hacksaw did not win in its category. I mean, he won in comedy musical. Hacksaw had lost in drama to Arrival. So that, is interesting from the editors themselves. But I think it's going to be La La Land.
I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah, although I do think Hacksaw Ridge stands a chance because you do notice that those battle sequences alone are
they're
spectacular.
amazing.
So,
yeah.
I mean, that's the funny thing about all of Oscars and all of competition is the definition of best. It's like let's give all of them awards this year.
Yeah.
But
That's what I can't figure out, Tim. That's why I said I don't know if they're just going to check it off
Yeah.
and go down the line, or if we're going to pick each one and try to guess which in those categories. I don't know what mood they're in.
No, and also, I mean, it's. I mean, I do find that the Academy members that I talk to, they're very thoughtful. It's like I think they don't go on like automatic pilot.
No.
And people always make fun of Oscar voters, and it's like, oh my God, they're all 90 years old and out of it. But it's like they make a point of seeing these movies and thinking about them. So again, I would love to know. How the vote turned out in each category. But
Best documentary feature, we have 3 African American contenders, themed contenders here. O.J. Made in America, 13th, I'm Not Your Negro, and then Fire at Sea and Life Animated.
Which is Life Animated is directed by an African American.
Good point.
as well.
Who's on the board of governors of the
Right, Roger
Academy?
Russell
Oh, I
Williams.
didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
He is.
brilliant. So O.J.'s out front according to the experts, but what do we know? Is it really going to win?
Yes.
What is it?
wait, you think yes? What did you
I
say?
just have a problem with OJ, and I like it very well. It's going to
But it's
win.
not about your
It's
opinion.
going
Are you
to-
an Oscar voter?
Yes.
How
It's
long
going
have you
to-
been an
I'm
Oscar
an
voter?
Emmy voter, and
I
it's
am
going
too.
to win Best Documentary Emmy Series
So what
because
wins
that's what
here?
it is, a television show.
So-
unfortunately, the Academy has made it eligible here when it shouldn't have been.
It debuted at Sundance
Yeah.
as a movie. The filmmaker says it's a movie. It is not episodic in the sense that it's 1-hour sections. It's 5 uneven sections. It adds up to almost 8 hours. It's an extraordinary achievement. And the reason why everybody's so hot and bothered about it is because it's unfair for this movie that's so great to be competing against. It's unfair.
It
They
is.
can't beat it. Is the
Actually,
problem?
Netflix
It is
is-
incredible. This movie.
Netflix's campaign for 13th that's coming out is whatever the first line is, this extraordinary story about our justice
2
system.
hours.
In 100 minutes is how they're going to do it. Yeah.
But see, I mean, again, I do think that the documentary race is just getting better every year. Because
Amazing.
any one of those 5, to me, I'm thinking that this is top quality stuff, could win and deserves to win. So, I don't know with this one, because my big question about the OJ is like, it's 7 hours.
The
It's
word
like,
of mouth is good.
Yeah, the word of mouth is very good, but I just don't know if enough people saw it.
I guarantee you they didn't see it in the theater.
Yeah,
You
no,
know,
Right,
no,
it's on
but
ESPN,
even
right.
But this argument too, the Academy is hanging on for dear life to the idea that there's a theatrical documentary.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
only
Yeah,
play in
that's right.
theaters to qualify
This
for the
is
Oscars.
this is exactly
That's the
right.
only reason.
No, you're-
That's exactly
they're all
right.
backed
Right.
by television. Amy was an exception, but they're all backed by
Yeah,
television.
No,
Life
you're-
Animated also played theaters for a while before, there are a few, but not many. And you're absolutely right. And they are living with this old definition of documentary feature having to be a theatrical experience. And-
Yeah, but I mean, like back to the category, I loved Eagle Huntress. I loved it, and I was
If it
sad.
had been nominated, it might have won.
Yeah,
Well, it's kind of got everything. It's
Yeah.
very entertaining. But again, when I look at those 5, it's like, well, I mean, if I had the choice, I'm not sure I'd remove any of those 5 to move in Eagle Huntress. I just wish there could have been 6. But there were also a lot of other really great documentaries this year. I feel like 2016 was a terrific year for documentaries. Yeah.
The hardest categories to predict, of course, are those pesky little shorts.
Oh.
Live action shorts and animated shorts and all these things.
I'm ill-prepared for
What
this.
is your best advice? Where do we go to steal the best predict? I would say that pay attention carefully, again, to the top 24 predictors at Gold Derby. If you're confused, they are really, really paying attention. And by the way, recently among all the experts at Gold Derby, and specifically these 4, has been kicking pundit butt with the highest degree of accuracy. So if you're going to steal any of ours, I recommend steal Ann's lately. Pete has historically probably
wanna be
the best score
responsible.
Oh.
overall. Pete goes, and I and Ann actually go back to the first days of Gold Derby, to year 2000. What's your advice? How do people evaluate those?
Oh, it's so hard with the shorts. Now you have the opportunity to see them
You
everywhere.
should see them.
And you just see them, and you can just basically, my advice would be, watch them all, and how would you vote? Because you might be just as close to an Academy vote on that thing, too, of what's the best in these categories. It really is a crapshoot in a lot of ways.
Derby's
Last year I
figuring it
got one without seeing it, because I like the title. I can't remember what the title is. Something about the river.
When in
And
doubt,
yes,
go
and no one was
with a
picking it.
Holocaust movie. That's one.
Yes,
another
that's a-
piece of
Here's
advice.
another
Very
good
good
rule.
tip.
Chris Beecham, our managing editor, came up with this one in the animated short when he goes, go with the animals. He said last year the bear, the one with the bear
Oh,
pulled
yeah.
off an upset. 2 years ago it was the dog. He goes, I'll go with the animals.
Yeah, the animals are always good. This year, I would suggest the movie White Helmets, because it's getting a lot of publicity about political themes
Syria.
in Syria and things. I think that will resonate
That's my pick for
in a
best
political year.
doc short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a movie, Silent Night, which is directed by a guy who's been nominated now 6 times for Oscars and won 2. That means he's got tremendous support within the branch, and these are the people who are going to vote religiously for these categories.
That's my pick in that category as well.
Yeah, so I mean, those are little things you can find out about these things. It may give you a heads up on how you think the vote may go. I don't think a great number of Academy voters vote in the shorts category, even though they are now sent out by the Academy and all of it. I don't think they do. I think it's just a few hundred.
And
But it's-
Pixar's Piper is another front runner.
Pixar's always formidable. Although I loved Inner
And
Worlds.
observed that we actually did really well last year with the shorts, so the Gold Derby experts. So I'm hard to see that.
Well, I mean, seriously, when you ask how do people vote, I think the 2 choices are go to Gold Derby or steal from Ann Thompson. Because as Tom O'Neill says, she kicks pundits'
She really
butts.
does. It's
You know,
very humbling. We got to wrap up
Don't do
here.
this.
You now have the secret formula to get the right predictions at Gold Derby and beat us. And that's what it's all about at Gold Derby is showing us who the real expert is. And you know what? I have a hunch it's you. Go to Gold Derby, make your predictions, and good luck.